Hey, what's up guys? Jeremy coming at you live for another edition of Video Game Collecting Pickups. Also a crossover with the Vinyl Collecting Pickups. Right? It's been a very good week overall again, and I just ran into some luck and I'll let you know how it went down. Alright, it's one of those weeks where you think you're not going to get anything, but then it just happens. Alright, so what we're going to look at here is actually this lot of records right here. What I ended up doing is I went to a garage sale on the weekend, and this guy had a ton of records. Some stuff didn't really interest me, but other stuff was great. I'm not going to talk about this just yet, but I just want you to know that I was able to get all this plus that for 10 bucks. Okay, now what's interesting about this right here is that when I was asking him about vinyl, he said, "Are you looking for anything else?" Right? And I said, "Well, actually, just curious, do you have any video games?" And he goes, "Oh, I never even thought of it. Give me a second." So when I was looking through records, I was talking to his wife. He actually went, I don't know, probably in his basement or wherever, and he brought this out. So anyways, he got this in the late 2000s, and obviously it's a Nintendo 64, but what ended up happening is that he got this for his son, and his son never used it. This was never used. This is brand new, mint in mint box, a Nintendo 64, unused. Okay, and it's just been sitting there. So I said, how much do you want for all this, right? And I was waiting for something like 20 bucks or something, and he said, "No, just give me 10 bucks. I'm like, "Oh, all right." So what ended up happening in this, I got some great stuff, a couple great things and more fillers, but he had some Beatles, and I grabbed those, and they were doubles of ones I already had, so I ended up actually selling them, and I made 100 bucks on those Beatles. I don't have them to actually show you, but I made 100 bucks. So basically, out of 10 bucks I spent, I got a brand new Nintendo 64 mint in mint box, which I'll put in storage and just never use, and I got all these records, and then I sold the doubles of the records, made 100 bucks, so costing me 10 bucks, I profited 90 bucks, and we'll go from there. So later on that week, what ends up happening, I get a message on Facebook, I think from the Bratsky, right? He just says, "Oh, I went down to Value Village, I found an adapter for a Sega CDX, was digging for it, and he found the CDX, and I think he got it for like $29.99 if I recall, with 30% off. So I was like, "Oh, dang, that's awesome," right? And I was happy for him and stuff. So the next day, I'm actually like, man, I maybe I'll just check out Value Village, okay? And it went down. And so I was looking for games, I didn't see anything, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, it's gonna be one of those days." And I'm starting to leave, and I look over, and I see the glass case, and all of a sudden inside the glass case, I see a ton of Nintendo 64 and Super Nintendo games, complete, in box, with strategy guides, and I was like, whoa, right? So anyways, they just literally brought them out and they filled the case, like just probably like a minute before I even got there. So what's interesting is that at Value Village, we, recently, we had these get 30% off, and I actually had this card right here, not this exact one, but I had a card which actually was loaded up -2, as you see here, of these, right? So by this time I picked out a bunch of stuff I wanted, and coincidentally the Bretsky was in line, and I was showing him some stuff, and I had the card out, and I'll show you this bag of goodies I got there. But I was asking the lady at the cashier, "Do you mind if can I just apply this 30%? What do I got to do to apply this 30%? And she said, let me pay for the cheapest item to get your stamps, and then apply the 30% to the rest of the purchase," right? So I'm looking at stuff, and I see some of the things, and I'll show you some of these items here, and the prices for Value Village were actually a little bit more than usual, but when you figure the condition they are in, the completeness, and the strategy guides on top, I was like, okay, well, minus 30%, it's still worthwhile because you don't find them in that condition. You don't find them with all that stuff. And yeah, so I was actually talking to Bretsky, and he said, why don't you go back to the case and get like a cheap game that, whatever, and stuff, like the cheapest one. And I just went back and I actually looked in there with him, and I saw one for like, I think $9.99. It was $9.99. $9.99, pardon me. And that was this game I'll pull out here. Oops, which was Quake, all right, 64. So that was $9.99. That's complete in box, and it came with the strategy guide that you see there. All right, so $9.99, and that loaded up the 2 there. So the card I had before would have looked like this, and then I was able to apply 30% off to all that. So what ended up happening, oh god, you see the super scope already sticking out. So what ended up happening there, I bought some things, and then I bought some things, and then the case was empty, and I was just going out, and they're like, oh, we have more stuff, right? So they brought out more stuff, and I'm like, oh. And then by that time, I actually loaded up, with all the stuff I bought, I actually loaded up another card. So then I was like, oh, can I use this card again to get 30% off on whatever else is there? And like, yeah, go for it. So then I ended up buying more, and I ended up loading up, look at, like these cards here, I ended up loading another 30% off card and almost getting to another % off card, right? So now you saw that, and I just want to be straight up with you. What ended up happening on the Quake bill that you see there, it was $9.99 plus tax, so that was $11.29, right? And then that loaded up my card. So after I got the 2 stamps, it ended up looking like this. And then I bought all of that, and then I ended up buying more. And then I decided second on something I didn't want, so they adjusted my bill. And then I ended up going out with a bunch of stuff, and some stuff actually, when they're bringing out stuff, wasn't even really bagged yet. But this is what it came out to, okay? And now it looks like a lot, but I'll explain here in a second. So it's $154.25 plus $11.29, and I'll work that out in a second. All right, so let's just look at this. Okay, I'm gonna move all this stuff out of the way here. Sorry about that, guys. And you'll see what the rock is cooking in a sec. Okay, let's just start with, okay, this bag. And what I did was I opened them to check that they were complete in box and everything. And the first was Artie Lightfoot for the Super Nintendo. As you can see, the instructions weren't the best, but that's Artie Lightfoot. Okay. Another game complete in box is Bomberman 64. Another item complete in box. That's a Super Game Boy. Okay. All right, so that's that was actually one of the later buys. Oh, sorry, stuff's coming out here. You got Bomberman 64, The Second Attack. You got Gemmin's Great Adventure. There's Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition. All right. Okay, this one here was a little bit more, but don't forget, I ended up getting 30% off. So it's Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition, Nintendo 64, complete in box with the strategy guide, as you see there. Actually, you know what I just realized? There's actually 2 guides in here. There's this guide, the Ocarina of Time official strategy guide, and you can see there's actually another one. I didn't even realize that. That's awesome. It looks like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Oh, it's official guide from Nintendo Power. All right, so bonus, I was able to get that. That's awesome. All right, so we're just gonna throw that over there. Okay, this one here is Lethal Enforcers. It just has the game, the instructions, and it has both guns, as you see there. So it's not bad, not bad, not bad. All right. Okay. Ugh. What else we got in here? Oh, paid a little bit more for this one too. Look at $24.99, but after 30% off, that was like 20 bucks. With Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 64, that was complete in box, instructions, everything. What I did is I opened them to make sure that they're all in there and everything, and then it came with a strategy guide. Super Smash. All right, so that's great. Okay. Ugh. We got another one. Actually, Bretsky was looking at this, and that's Mario Party 2, complete in box, instructions, everything. It's in fantastic condition for Nintendo 64. Whoops, what was this for? Oh, that's Mario Party 2. That goes with this. Another item was Legend of Zelda. I'm not sure where they took these out, but that's alright. Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. And again, I just opened it to make sure that it was actually in there and complete and everything. And yeah, Zelda Link to the Past complete in box. Alright, another item. La la la. I paid $24.99 minus the 30%. So that came out to like $19.99, but it was Super Mario RPG, complete in box, fantastic condition. You can't really pass up on that, right? So, great, there you go. There's that. Okay, and as you see here, this is the Super Scope for the Nintendo Entertainment System with the receiver and attachment and the Super Scope game with the instructions. That was $24.99. After 30% off was like $19.99. All right, so basically you get all this. Sorry, it's like a mess. You get all this stuff. You get the Super Scope. You get all the attachments, all the hookups. Right. Walking out the door with even more cards, because I spent so much that I have another 30% off, which I think I have to use like ASAP before July 7th. Ooh, that's Saturday. Oh, I gotta spend this like now. And then also there's that there. So I'm ready to go to buy more. Okay, so with that said, let's just look at what I did here, okay? And just to show you, I guess it's almost like a video game collecting tip modified, I guess. All right, so if you recall, I spent $10 there, okay? And from there, I sold some items. I made $100. Okay, so cost was $10. Profit, I'll just get right to the profit, was $90 because I sold records for $100. So if you guys just figure that out, 10, there's your $90. All right. All right. So now what ended up happening here? Here's my receipts. All right. As you can see there, you have $154.25 plus $11.29. All right. Okay. So hold on. If I get the, it's killing me right now. Okay. 154.25 plus 11.29